Yeah, now we're just going because I don't know where my little countdown thing went. It's just gone. I have no idea. Good morning. Welcome to the Coffee Table Talks.
The problem is for me, the YouTube thing will come on, and all of a sudden we'll have voices going, oh, here we go. All right, I'm good. Got it muted.
Good job, Will. Welcome. We are going with the flow. 100%. Thanks for testing out the YouTube chat, Will. Yep. Good morning, Chris. We see you. And thank you, Meg, for testing out the LinkedIn chat. My whole everything is thrown off because I didn't have my 30-second countdown. Do you understand how badly I need structure in my life? Tim McCarty understands. That's our sales director at Secure Nation. I tell her all the time, no, I need guardrails. Keep telling me what to do. Thank you.
We can start now because Rob's here. So, all right, now we can go.
Okay, good. All right, I feel better. That's going to be that's my trigger to start. Great. Welcome to the Coffee Table Talks. With us today, we have Patrick Garrity, security researcher with VulnCheck. Thank you, Patrick, for joining us. With me, as always, is Will McCullen, the program manager for the IT Center for Excellence at Pima Community College in Tucson, Arizona. And if you're new here, my name is Rachel Arnold. I am the human API that is neurodiverse as hell and really mad about my countdown.
Hi, Rachel.
It's going to be okay.
It's not okay. Panicking Rachel noises are happening in the background. Guys, I might break out into hives. Okay, it's fine. This is fine. It's fine. Happy Friday. I want to start today by letting everybody know that I am not immune to good marketing strategy and demos. Have you guys ever heard of the rainbow vacuum system? Have you?
No.
Okay. The rainbow vacuum system is
it vacuums rainbows?
No, it might. It might. It is a pyramid scheme cult selling a vacuum cleaner that does everything, including purifying your soul. Everything.
Wow.
Everything. Okay. I got looped in to having a demo in my home earlier this week.
What?
I did because my friend, this is how they get you, because my friend said, I just need to demo it in one more person's home so I can get mine for free and also a vacation that I desperately need. I was like, friend, I'm here for you. How much of my time do you need? She said 45 minutes, I promise. I said, great. She also brought me a bottle of amaretto. She knows me. That's awesome.
Did you buy two? You bought two, right?
I want you to go and Google rainbow vacuum. Okay. Look at all the attachments that come up. And then I want you to understand that to buy it new out of the box from the Rainbow Company is $5,000. I said $5,000. It is $5,000 for a vacuum cleaner. Pardon me.
You need to hand her one of these, right?
$5,000. If you purchase
free plug.
If you purchase on the day of the demo, it is $3,700. Much more affordable. Here's the fun part. This lady was so nice, you guys. She is amazing. I have her card. I would 100% hang out with her again. She did a great job. Her demo was amazing. I was like, I see why you are successful at this. I want to buy one. And if anybody knows anything personal about Rachel, they would realize, but Rachel, your husband is a SOC analyst for Shark. Shark. You know, the people that also make vacuums.
So it sounds like the Rainbow vacuum website is about to go down in 3, 2.
I get no matter how many times the Rainbow lady told me that the vacuums at Rainbow were superior to all other brands. It doesn't matter because Shark has an R&D program. And when they found out that somebody that works for their company has 3 small, grubby children, 2 dogs with long hair, they went, "We're sending the Arnold's vacuum cleaners for free. We want them to try them out and tell them how it did." So we're part of their R&D program, which is really fun. I have vacuums for free. I have so
But
many
for the
robots.
others, that sucks.
It does suck. It was so fun. So anyway.
Sorry, it was there. Okay. It was like, that was a T-ball hit. Had to, right? Sorry.
So I just want to open up with a personal story while everybody gets in. And that's my personal story. I am not immune to marketing and sales.
Okay. So,
I was
Patrick.
in on it. I was in on marketing and sales. I did. Yeah. So Patrick, did you always want to be a security researcher when you grew up?
No, I wanted to own a vacuum store.
You
No,
did. I knew it. I knew it.
There, like, it's interesting. In my hometown, there's still a vacuum store, and it's like interesting to me. It's like, who goes to a vacuum store?
I'll bet you it's owned by Rainbow. It's a whole thing.
Maybe. But wait, what was the question? How did I become a security researcher?
Yeah.
Or did I always want to be one?
Yeah. Were you a little kid? Because look, I'm going to tell you, when I was a little kid and they asked me this question, my first answer was ballerina. I think that's why I like Make so much. It just dawned on me.
Probably, I think I wanted to be a pilot when I was a kid. Like, I don't think that security research was really a thing in like the 80s and early 90s. I mean, maybe like very niche in the universities, but but I would say it's like hands-on at a very young age. I had like a IBM DOS computer, probably like a 286 when I was 5. So we play, you'd log in and navigate around the command line and play some Carmen Sandiego or Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune in monochrome.
Yes, I played the Wheel of Fortune. I loved it. It was so great.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
So, yeah, and then you got internet access probably when I was, probably before I was 10. I don't know. Whenever Windows 95 came out and you got those AOL CDs,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and my screen name was Tanoki Man, like the Tanoki Man in Super Mario 3. Like straight, that was my AOL screen name. So yeah, just love technology from the get-go. And then of course got into working for the school district. And so that was kind of fun, hands-on. At that time,
which school district?
I'm in Michigan, and it was South Lyon Community Schools. And at that time, you had to run from computer to computer with this thing called a floppy, 3.5 inch at that time. There were bigger ones earlier, and then a CD. And you would go and you'd wipe all the computers during the summer, and we would replace all the computers, or we would fix the computers. So naturally, like, always into tech. And then I secretly would, at that time, they would just throw the computers in the dumpster. So I'd secretly go at night and take all the RAM and the processors and some of the computer parts and build my own stuff at home, and until I got in trouble.
I was like, did you let this happen? What?
Yeah. One day I got pulled aside by like the head of technology, and they're like, dude, you gotta stop. Like the cameras have you on going in dumpsters and stealing all these computers. And I was like, well, you're just throwing them out.
That
so
seems
I'm like,
fair to me.
I won't do it again. And I probably didn't do it again, but got my fair share of computer equipment that way.
Well, technically, once it's in a dumpster.
I mean, right? Isn't that fair game at that? It's not. I used to run restaurants, and stuff that goes in our dumpsters, we had a responsibility for. And I don't know if we have time to explain what that responsibility is, but I mean, we never had any kind of throw away the technology here. kind of situation. But yeah,
Anyhow,
that's mean.
anyhow.
Why don't they let you wipe them and take them? I mean, right? That stuff is gonna sit in a landfill somewhere anyway. But there's processes for that now. Anyway,
Yeah, times have changed.
times have changed. Indeed.
So
Indeed.
where'd you go from there?
I worked at a computer shop. We had a dial-up MSP that we managed, so we had like a Radius server.
Woohoo!
So I got to input all the usernames and passwords and reset them, and it was just for the local community, so it's kind of cool. And I think we had a T1 line powering all of that.
Woohoo!
Yeah, pretty sweet. And then uh, out of high school, I ended up going to community college for a few years, and
Yay.
I wasn't, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so it was like my parents are like, "We're not going to spend all this money for you to go to university." Like, kind of funny. Like my siblings went to university, and they're like Patrick, like you don't know what you want to do. Like, let's
Not
not waste
you
the
though,
money.
Patrick.
Yeah. And so
Not you.
I ended up going to community college and like got a lot of hands-on experience within like VMware and Microsoft server, and kept at that. And then I started my own computer repair shop in the 2000s. And at that time, like most of it was just viruses, right? So
Yeah.
formatting computers, running, I don't know what the tools were back then, like AVG and um, a bunch of other ones, and trying to get viruses off these devices and selling new computers and building them. And then, naturally, I was like, you know what? Like, it's really hard to run a computer shop. You don't make much money. And so I ended up, the company's still in business, actually. My friend runs it and he's doing well, but I ended up going to a managed service provider. And I actually came on board from being like running my own company, doing tech work, to being a account development rep, cold calling, selling MSP services and infrastructure. And because I was technical, like I just got it. And I just started like consulting with the clients, even though I wasn't officially a salesperson. And I just started closing deals because they were like, oh, Patrick knows what he's talking about and we need this stuff. And so I was kind of like a salesperson and sales engineer at the same time. I did that for about 3 years. And then I think it was in 2012, I went to a meetup in Ann Arbor, and it was a Friday meetup, and I met this guy, Doug Song. You might have heard of him. He was CEO at Duo, but at the time they were like, we started this two-factor company, and we're like three people. It was him, John Oberheid, and Adam. I'm spacing on Adam's name, and I'm like, dude, this is awesome. I'm deploying RSA Secure ID in my clients, and it takes like months. And they're like, check it out. I go home, I install it on my Windows device, and Duo installs in like 5 seconds. And I was like, I have to go and work for this company. Like, and so I came to them and I'm like, dude, can I join? How do I get involved? And they're like, oh no, we don't need salespeople. We're a tech company. The product sells itself. And so I went and got like 4 or 5 of my customers, and I was like, hey, they need two-factor. Who can they talk to? And they're like, oh, we don't want to talk to anyone. And so I was like, well, you should just hire me. And so Doug, at the time, I didn't know Doug very well. And I didn't know that like he has a history with woo woo, and he was kind of like a college hacker out of U of M, part of some of the hacking groups. And so, yeah, Doug was like, yeah, come on board, like come be a sales rep. and that lasted all of like 3 months before I was like, oh, I don't want to be in sales. And then I became in charge of sales engineering. And so that was like my start in cyber, was just, and everyone at the time in 2012 was like, do not go into cyber. No one cares about cyber. Like everyone I knew was like, Patrick, this is the worst decision you're going to make in your life. Like no one cares about cybersecurity. It's a checkbox and it's not going to become something. And at the time, like I was taking like probably like a 40% pay cut to come to Duo. And I think I was the 12th employee there. And so
Wow.
pretty wild to just meet this random guy in Ann Arbor, Doug Song. Not random to a lot of people. You guys might not know him, I don't know, but he founded, or he helped found Arbor Networks before Duo. But yeah, great group of people, great culture, and so I was really fortunate to get on the ground floor of building what you consider modern multi-factor authentication nowadays, and kind of riding the wave of all the security breaches. So because we were the most effective way to get a bad guy out, we'd get calls right away from everyone.
Sure.
Like the
Of
first
course.
thing you would do when you have a breach is you would implement MFA. And so I got to be on all these giant, the world's largest breaches. Like we'd get calls from FireEye and other companies, and they're like, "Dude, we need to deploy this week, like today, tomorrow, this weekend." Like one of the breaches, actually the Yahoo breach, we got a call on Saturday, and I was going to Lions game on Sunday, and I'm on my laptop as I'm waiting to go in the Lions game, and I'm like, "Hey guys, I'll finish the deployment. We're gonna have another engineer on here. I'll be back on in 3 hours." So just some really cool experiences of working with Alex Stamos back then, and then Kevin Mitnick, and a bunch of other people. And at the time, I didn't know who any of these people were because I didn't come from security.
Right.
So I was just like, "Yeah, let's hop on a call, help you out." And then later on, I'm like, "Who's Kevin Mitnick?" Oh, that's interesting.
Right? Oh, damn.
Yeah. So really, really fascinating. Of I was late. I was still early in cybersecurity. 2012 was early, but not early like the OG,
Right.
hacking groups of HD Moore and Mitnick and Woo Woo and Root and all these other cool things. I think the fortunate thing is I found myself working with a lot of these people that are really smart, intelligent, and had that experience. And so probably the biggest takeaway a lot of times for me is find the people and surround yourself with them that have experience and some battle wounds.
Oh, you mean chilling out on the coffee table talks?
Yeah.
That?
Yeah.
Yourself.
Yeah. So, and take risks, because ultimately it's I didn't know. I stumbled into a bunch of awesome people that had a ton of experience, and I was just like, "Yeah, I'll do anything and everything. You want me to mop the floors? I'm down." So
Okay, so I have some questions and comments of my own. Okay,
yeah.
number one, since you started out in IT in school district, that you mentioned in the beginning of storytelling time, do you feel like it's come full circle that your office is now also in a similar? You want to open up the door and show everybody?
Yeah. I mean, I work in an old high school. I'm actually in the guidance counselor office, which is very fitting. You can see, it's glass out front, so I have 4 windows now. So I'm in a glass bowl in the city center. But yeah, it's a little bit full circle.
Nice.
It's kind of funny during the summer. They have summer camps here, and so you open the door and it's hundreds of kids running around. But during the school year, it's pretty quiet. So yeah, pretty funny. That's where I got my start.
Oh, what is the name of the computer company, repair company that's still running, but by your friend? It's run by your friend.
Driven Technology.
Driven. Yeah. Did you come up with that name?
I think it was me and Mike, and we're still good friends. Mike's still running it, but yeah, I think me and Mike, probably was Mike's idea. I mean, Mike comes up with all the good ideas.
Go, Mike! Shout out to Mike. All right.
Yeah, Mike C.
Then my last question was, you were mentioning how you would get called away on these huge major company breaches. These companies would reach out to Duo, and the first thing you do is install MFA. What does it take to immediately install MFA right away? Like, what are the steps? Can you
Well,
break it down?
yeah. I mean, and it might be different nowadays because, like, you know, I've been away from MFA deployments for probably 5 or 6 years.
Okay, so
But
there we go. Well,
yeah,
we can, you know, with a little
well,
disclaimer, this is how you
yeah,
did it 5 or 6
caveat,
years ago,
yeah,
according to
yeah.
Patrick Garrity. Okay,
Yeah,
there
so
we
I
go.
mean, like, yeah, generally speaking, right? With Duo, it was an add-on control, and naturally, we were the first cloud service that most people used because we didn't have information. It was just like, oh, you can slap on Duo and it gives you more security. Great. Like this was before Office 365 or G Suite or any of these things. They were just coming to market. I think Microsoft was called BPOS, Business Productivity Online Suite. And
Yeah.
so, like, most of our work was deploying MFA on firewalls, or Outlook, and Exchange. They called it. You know,
Yeah.
people still have Exchange servers, but a lot less prevalent nowadays. Still getting hit hard. But yeah, naturally, like, you know, people had usernames and passwords, and at the time, people's even passwords were really bad. Like a lot of times, people would like use generic passwords. I remember on the MSP I was at, we had the same password across all our clients, right? And so, you know, like, and there was no MFA, and that was a pretty normal thing 10, 20 years ago. Not a recommendation for anybody. But yeah, naturally, you know, it's like, okay, what's going on in the environment? Okay, how do we get and provision a bunch of users very quickly so that we can get them back into the environment safely? So a lot of it was like, okay, how do we do out-of-band enrollment? So naturally, we would get lists of phone numbers for the users, and we would auto-enroll those in the service. So the next time they logged in, it would hit that second factor, and they could complete the enrollment process with the push application. And naturally, like that raised the bar very quickly. And not perfect. Like there's certainly ways to bypass MFA, but like on your edge devices and your Exchange servers, like that was really important. And naturally, like yeah, most of the attacks in those days were spray and pray, password spraying into environments, which still is happening because MFA controls aren't perfect and they're inconsistent. And then naturally, people would add it to other systems like SSO. You know, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges with MFA and why we still see attacks is like it's so hard to ensure that you have that control across the full stack. And naturally, attackers, like what we learned, is they are going to evolve as security controls evolve. So that's where you start to get into like the SMS bypass capabilities. Like we were very adamant, like early on, like you should not use SMS. Yes, we support it because it's better than nothing. But like you probably shouldn't use it. And then, you know, I think naturally towards the end of me being at Duo, I think a little bit afterwards, then you got into push phishing and more persistent attacks, annoyance types of attacks. And so you see more controls that have come into play of like validating with QR codes or numbers. So naturally, like, I don't know, my advice is like, yes, you should have it on everything. That's not as easily done as said. And I think the thing is most people have it in the most important areas, but there's still a lot of gaps as you look at like an enterprise.
Well,
As it relates
that's
to
some of the
identity.
things that where you guys made a real big difference there was because Duo, first of all, was a heck of a lot more affordable. You know, it was still expensive, but it was a heck of a lot more affordable than a lot of the competitors, and it was much easier to bring into play. You know, because you had the folks then, you know, like the entrusts and things like that that handled
Oh,
huge
brutal.
government accounts were incredibly expensive
Yeah.
and really difficult to put into play, and everybody had to walk around with little fobs, you know, or smart cards, or you know, things like that. But you guys brought it straight to the cell phone and made it really easy. That
Yeah, no, and that was when I saw that, like when I was deploying RSA and doing an 80-hour deployment and saw like, oh my gosh, we just did this in 5 minutes. I was like, I have to be a part of this. Um, and I think that at the time, like you didn't even have like Uber yet. And so people were like, oh, this is so easy. I think Uber just started around the same time, and it's like, oh, it's just as easy as like calling an Uber or calling a friend, or like the ease of use was important, and the pricing model equally really important, of like, yeah, 10 free users, anyone can deploy. So a lot of people deployed us. Like for instance, Mitnick, I remember deploying with Mitnick, and he deployed for his personal use case, and he knew it worked. So then he could tell his thousands of clients, you just need to buy Duo. Like it was golden. From an approach and strategy perspective, as far as like how the business was built foundationally, and kind of revolutionized technology. I know there's no silver bullets in security, but like at the time, it was kind of the closest thing to stopping at least mass attacks out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we got bought by Cisco, and shout out to all the Cisco folks there. Cisco wasn't for me. You go from this like startup where you grow to 800 people and you do amazing things, to like, oh, we just got acquired by the behemoth, right? And not criticizing, like that's their business. They have a business model, and they build and acquire technologies. Naturally I was like, oh, I got to get back to startup. I probably should have actually stayed there longer. That's always hindsight. And so I was like, oh man, I want to keep on building. So I got involved at Blue Mira. Blue Mira did detection response, basically a SIM you could deploy with almost as fast as Duo, with all the rules in place.
Yeah, we partnered with them at Secure Nation because of you. It's your fault.
Oh, sweet. That was my fault. So they've done.
Well, okay, so this is what happens. Whenever I see people at GurCon that I see them being very charismatic and open and like talkative with the other attendees, like that friendly energy, I get all excited. And then I do weird like level 5 stalker ex-girlfriend type of OSINT. And I figure out where you are, where you work, what you do, and all your projects are.
That's good.
It's not creepy if it's for work, right? Okay,
yeah.
So then I noticed Blue Mira, and we ended up partnering because of that. Because it's your fault. You may not have known it, but it's your fault.
So there's really two people there. Matt Warner, the CTO, and then why am I spacing right now? Oh my gosh, Amanda Berlin. So sorry, Amanda. Just space. But those two people were like, these are people I want to work with. Like that's another quality, is like when I met Doug and John, I was like, I want to work with these people. Same thing. And so I went there. We were early. I think we were 500K in revenue when I joined, and we had to spin it out of a managed service provider, which is really hard to spin a SaaS company out of a service provider. Just for all those out there, like thinking of building a SaaS product, I'm not going to discourage you, but like they're different businesses, different models. And so, I got in there. I was the VP operations, the salesperson, the sales engineer, the marketer, every role possible. And naturally, when I'm helping build these companies, like when you put a sales role on me, it doesn't really tell the whole story. I'm getting on and doing deployments with them in their environment, like making sure it works, collecting all the requirements, doing the deployments, and then anything that doesn't work, I then come back to engineering and say, hey, these things are key capabilities. We need to build them. Go do it. And naturally, like, I think that's a lot of my strength, is like, I don't care what the technology I'm working within. I have to be hands-on. I have to be in customers' environments. I have to be interacting with them. So naturally, I did that for 2 years, and at the time, I didn't see eye to eye with the CEO. Like it is what it is. I really encourage people, like, make sure you see eye to eye with the people that you're working with every day. That's really, really important. I ended up taking a little break. I did some weird crypto stuff. We won't go into that. And then I ended up landing at Nucleus Security, and that was really like, so I did get exposure all this time around vulnerabilities and exploitation, but like really Nucleus Security, when I landed there, that was like a pure play vulnerability management product. And I got hired as the VP of marketing. I was like, guys, I'm not really a VP of marketing, but I'll do it. And I'm going to take a different approach. Like, it's going to be a lot more technical, and we're going to try and explore different ways. And so most of what I did was I started researching the CVE program and vulnerabilities and exploitation. And at that time, Sysakev had just came out. And so naturally, I used Sysakev, which was a very small data set at the time. There was only like 400 or 500 CVEs on the Kev. And Sysakev is the government's known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. I know I was talking in acronyms, but it's like, you should really fix these things. They're bad. Threat actors are using them.
Sysakev.
My chair left.
Shout out. People are great. Have had a ton of opportunity to work with them. And naturally, like, I started to explore, how can we visualize this data? And so I think the reality is like, a lot of my work started with a small data set and figuring out, how do we actually show people what this means and what it is? And so naturally, I actually have a towel here I created, which was like, and I think this was in like 2023, but I created a tree map of the CISA known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. And, you can kind of see the big blue is Microsoft. But these are all the technologies. And the whole reason I created this was to educate people of like, hey, if we're looking at technologies that threat actors are targeting and being exploited, like, this is very easy to consume, and you can take it to the beach too, and the inspiration, like, I used Mondrian, which Pete Mondrian's artwork, which is like pretty famous tile style artwork. Like, I kind of copied from that, and dude, it went super viral. And from my understanding is, like, governments have these towels and skiffs, is what I've heard, which is pretty cool. But that was kind of like I was really, trying to understand for myself, like, genuine curiosity, like, what do we need to know about exploitation and what's actually being hit and targeted? And that so I've been at, like, really the research role for about 2 years. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool to be able to, like, collaborate with the government. Sometimes they try and hire you, and that's weird. But I'm like, I build product security companies. I'm really not a government guy. Like, I'm happy to do whatever you want. I'm happy to help and collaborate.
Do they just keep winking at you and going, you should stay, have another drink?
Yeah. Yeah, and so for me, it was like, no, like, I want to help you guys. I'm happy to help. Like, I'm happy to promote, but also I want an independent opinion. And I feel like if I start to work for you formally, like, I can't have that opinion.
You can't.
Yeah, and so
that's absolutely true. You cannot.
And I'm not trying to be critical. I'm thankful for all the government workers out there, but, like, naturally for me, it's like, no, like, I want to build product security companies, and I want to help national security, but I want to be able to maintain that personal view, personal opinion.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, pretty cool opportunity to do a bunch of independent research around their work and with them, which was cool. And then unfortunately, like, I got slashed at Nucleus. Well, fortunately, and in my opinion, but I lost my job at Nucleus. Weird story. I published research and we didn't see eye to eye. I don't know how to say other than that. And I showed up one day and I didn't have a job. Right. So,
man, that's got to be hard. Like, what did?
Oh, it was.
Can
brutal.
we dive into that? Like, what do you do?
Well, I think the main thing was, like, from a research perspective, I was, like, peaking in visibility and helping promote the company, and everything I was doing was around research that tied back to the companies.
Right.
But I think the thing is like, sometimes founders, like, see that as far as you outrunning the company's brand. And naturally it was like, oh, there's different cultures and different companies and different mentalities. And so for me, it hurt. But the reality was like, it opened up the opportunity where, I could be in an environment with people that I want to be in, with some of the best data sets in the world to do research around, and start at a company where like I'm formally just a security researcher.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
so
like
it
to
worked out really well.
I'd like to unpack this just a little bit.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you got a treasure trove of fantastic information there. And you know me, right? I'm community college. So I always like to put things in perspective with students. So here you have a whole career where you have gone from one thing to another, but you've got some really powerful things in there of following your passion and helping to find who you are. Now, a trap that a lot of students and people out there fall into is that I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm going into a company, and this is where the real professionals are, so that what they do and what they say, it must really be accurate as to who I am and what I do. And you have gone through multiple different scenarios here, but kept your passion, kept your viewpoint. What would you say to students or to people getting into the industry or who might be in the industry feeling locked in about a life lesson there?
Yeah, I mean, get outside your comfort zone. Don't let others be the control of your destiny. Like ultimately, like I'm very fortunate. I get to do what I want to do every day. Um, uh, it can take a long time to get there. I think generally speaking, it's like persistence, networking, um, focusing on what interests you, trying to ensure that aligns with some aspect of job. Like fortunately for me, my interest in technology took me here. I don't think that's always the case for people, right? I think sometimes people get into technology because you can make a lot of money. I didn't make money until I was probably probably somewhere around 25. And so I think like you're not going to see immediate success always. You're going to have setbacks. And so I think, yeah, really like the people you surround yourself with, like I look at like when I'm looking at companies and profiling them, it's like the first thing I look at is company culture and the people. Like, do I see these people as peers? Do I want to work with them every day? If the answer to that is not yes, I'm out. Like no questions asked. There's a lot of toxic culture out there, a lot of toxic people. You don't want to be around that. Ultimately, we all need jobs though, so like there's a balance there where that doesn't work out for everyone. So that's really important. And then yeah, I think on the security side, it's like to me, is it interesting? And I think the interesting thing is like I could have gone to an identity company after Duo. I didn't because I want to keep learning. And I felt like continuing to focus on the same exact security control and discipline would be incredibly boring to me. Like I already did that for 8 years. And so
Friend,
naturally,
friend, you got it.
yeah.
That's what I love about where I am with Secure Nation is that, oh man, every day we get to look at something completely different all the time, right? And then my leadership is fully supportive of me going out and meeting folks like Patrick and all the other guests that we've ever had on the coffee table and then doing a live stream on a Friday. They're like, "Yes, you should
Yeah.
do that because you enjoy it. It's doing some greater community good. We totally see it. You don't even have to press us that hard about it, right?" Like having a place where it feeds my neurodiversity part of my brain too, to be able to jump around. I can't, if I get bored, it's over, guys. I'm not doing it. Like, y'all should see
Yeah.
the stack of laundry sitting on my table right now. It's boring and repetitive, and I'm not
And
doing it.
and hey, the other thing I would say too is like, and this was a thing at Duo, is our office manager, Zoe, is a researcher now, in a speaker at Blue Mira actually. And I look at that, it's like just get on the bus. When you find great people to work with, like it doesn't matter the role. Like be a salesperson, be like man, I hit the phones as an ADR for a year. It sucked. It sucked. I never want to do it again. But like I have that life skill now, right?
Yep.
And so like I would say encourage people like don't think that you're going to land a CISO job when you get out of college. Like maybe you will, but you're probably going to be a terrible CISO. I don't know, maybe you're an awesome CISO, I don't know, but like it's more about gaining experiences and relationships
Yep.
and growing those over time than anything. And so I naturally think like there's few great companies out there. There's some that are good. There's a lot that are bad. Is how I kind of look at the triangle. And so it's like, yeah, if you can surround yourself with great people, you find great companies to work for, like find a way in and be willing to do anything. That being said, like you still want to be honed in on like positioning yourself as an expert in something. But I've seen, I kind of mentioned Zoe, great example going from office manager to account executive to sales engineering, getting hands on and just being curious. And so I think that like from a career perspective to me, is naturally like what opens up opportunity is when you're willing to be and do anything. So
It really is.
That's
One of my favorite things I've been playing with this week is Tines. Have you ever played with Tines? It's like a security
oh
automation.
yeah.
Yeah. So we had a coffee table talk 3 years ago with Owen, one of the founders of Tines when it was new. And I found Owen in the most obscure place down in a Reddit channel. Like that's how I met Owen.
That's
oh yeah,
fun.
but she's in Ireland, and that's absolutely fantastic.
So we got to hang out with Owen and like talk about it before it was even something that everybody was using sometimes. Anyway, so I hadn't revisited it in a long time. I love going back and revisiting some of those old things and playing, and not old, that's not old, but you know what I mean. In cybersecurity product tool space, that's old. 3 years, man, you've been here a minute. But going back and playing with the new functions and features and toying around with it, and then I share it with other people and I'm like, have you made it do this yet? Like it's so great to have community to build like that, and you don't have to be near a bunch of people. You guys, I live in South Louisiana, just outside of Baton Rouge. Our community is very small and very tight knit. Okay,
Yeah.
it's not huge, and then you're in cybersecurity anyway, right? That's small. um
Yeah.
but it's tea tiny. So it's a lot of fun to be able to connect together on events like this, right? That was my passion, was bringing people together. It's my thing. Um, if you lived down the street from me, I would invite you to my house all the time, and we just chill and have coffee.
Well,
Like
the other thing that you've hit into, right, that uh lightly touched, but could be a whole episode in itself. You're now working in the area of known vulnerabilities, and that's massive. And for all the students out there and folks, right, you have vulnerabilities out there of elements that need to be repaired. You have massive industry. You have areas where ways for the bad guys to get in. So
Yep.
what you have to do to be able to make any sense out of it is be able to categorize it, be able to put some levels of importance so that you know where to put your energies hardest and fast first. Because it'd be nice to just say, hey, let's just do all the things. Well, that's not realistic. And then you have the areas that get down to the known vulnerabilities. And that's what you were digging into. And it sounds like you're trying to make a real major dent in that area. What do we need to see in the industry, and how can we make a big dent? Because that's taking it beyond just identifying and saying, oh, hey, here's real stuff happening now. Right?
Yeah. So a few things for me that, and the curiosity, like, so known exploited vulnerabilities. So start where the attackers are hitting. Naturally, that's where my research started. For me, I had access to SysAkev. When I came to VulnCheck, it was kind of interesting because they're like, hey, we're going to actually release our known exploited vulnerability list for free as well. You can actually go to VulnCheck and put an email address in and get our full catalog. It's like about 3 times the size, maybe. And that's interesting to me because it's like, okay, what are the technologies being impacted here? What are the targets? Why are they targeting them? What can people do about it? And so naturally, I think like starting with the information of what we know allows us to take a step back. And so at first I grouped by vendors and technologies, right? And there's a bunch of different pieces of research I've published. Like I've done it based on categories, initial access devices like firewalls. You mentioned Palo Alto devices or F5 or Fortinets or Avanti or you name it. Like it doesn't matter what technology it is. The threat actors are opportunistic. They're going to try and hit it. You know, and you have other categories like email services. Like, why are they targeting email services? Because that's how they can run phishing campaigns. That also is another way that's initial access, right?
Yep.
You know, and then CMS, content management systems, open source technologies, those are all web facing. Once again, like I can compromise hosts, I can build a botnet, I can start to get access to those hosts, and I can do different things as a threat actor. So, you know, for me, naturally, it's been like, oh, like coming to VulnCheck was the opportunity to work with great people. And then, you know, and I think the interesting side is like, it was a transition into Intel, right? So we have an amazing team of exploit developers, world-renowned experts on exploitation. We have our own Go exploit framework, which is open source as well. And to me, it's like, oh, this solves the other side of the puzzle. Like when you only look at the CVEs and the exploitation information, that's one thing. But seeing how actually like real world people are developing exploits and exploiting technologies kind of starts to merge. Oh, wow, this is interesting. This is what's actually going on. And so for me, I spend a lot of time interacting with not only internal teams, our team and our different products and our data, but also interacting with all the stakeholders. So a lot of times I'll interact with the vendors themselves to get a sense of like, hey, why are things this way? And then one of the things this week that was more interesting that I shared a link to the research was like, you have information that gets shared, and like last week it was the black box the chat logs. Like, wow, we can actually look into the real world of like what one of the largest ransomware groups it has been doing over the past year and a half. Like now I can see
exciting.
like inside their brain, you know, partly
Yeah.
inside their brains and discussions around like, what are they using? How are they doing it? How are they targeting things?
Right.
And so, yeah, naturally, in some ways, it's like collecting Pokemon, right? Always looking for evidence of exploitation. And the thing is like, as a company, the other thing I like, you know, how we think about this is like, yes, we find exploitation, we develop exploits, we do detections, like that's great, but we take a more holistic view. It's like there's hundreds of security companies that are disclosing exploitation on reports, on honeypots like the Shadow server is a good example. You have Gray Noise, you have all this evidence from Palo Alto, Checkpoint, Microsoft, the government, like the Five Eyes, right? And the challenge is like this information is all disparate. And so essentially, like part of the challenge, you know, that we've helped solve for is very specific. It's like, how do we collect all this evidence as it relates specifically to vulnerabilities, right? And that's what's kind of cool is like, if you take that view of like, we're not the, you know, what we see is not the end all be all. And you take a holistic approach of like, hey, let's look at everything we can get our hands on, completely changes the dynamic of what's really going on in the world. And then being able to go and research that stuff and then validate it with like the black box, the chat logs of like, yeah,
So
this ties together pretty well what's going on, right?
so let me make an assumption here, because
Yep.
if I'm peeking into your mind frame, where that curiosity naturally leads, I mean, when it comes to vulnerabilities, we're kind of all sitting here waiting, you know, hit me again, hit me again, hit me again, right? But then what can you do about it? And so it sounds like you're heading into elements of predictability, possibly, or elements of is there something we can do about it?
Yeah. I think that the biggest things for me are looking at the technologies most impacted, right? Like what angles are the most impacted? And like from an organizational perspective, like I think there's two ways to look at it. Number one is, have we automated patch processes across these devices, software, and technologies that are most being impacted? Like Windows updates, operating system updates, browser updates, removing and pruning end of life technology out of our environments. Because I can guarantee at a community college, you probably have some end of life technology hanging out all over the place, and threat actors are continue to be opportunistic about that. Actually, in the black box of the chat logs, one of the things we observed is the number of URLs that are .edu, because how easy it is to get student accounts. Like that's theory, but like, well, why else would you just dump tons and tons of edu addresses, right?
Yeah, actually,
I got to
the
go
big
back.
universities are the most vulnerable spots because they can't cooperate with themselves.
Yeah. So it's a real challenge, and they have research there, so there's other reasons why they're targets too.
Yep.
But you know, generally speaking, it's like the threat actors are going to be opportunistic, and so getting back to like, okay, we got to do the basics right. Like if you don't have your automations in place around patch management, updating systems, updating applications, modernizing your technology stack, like uh, it kills me to continue to see people get owned from vulnerabilities from like 10 years ago. But that's where we live. That's the environment we're in. And so I think naturally that also shows it's like, okay, are we actually budgeting for tech debt? Are we budgeting for modernizing applications in the name of security alone? Because like you can't just let a system sit out here on the internet and let it be. And then I think we're going to see an era soon where like we're starting, like people are actually going to start assessing technologies based on risk.
Oh no, we already do that, bud.
What I mean by that is like it's like, okay, well, you know, you're probably right. But like what I'm thinking of is, and I think where a lot of people are going is, it's like these technologies, like Gray Noise's report from this week. You look at the screenshot of Avanti.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's pretty telling what's going on there.
Yeah.
From my perspective. And so, yeah, sorry, you can go ahead too. But I didn't mean to cut you off. But yeah, I really think I think ultimately like buyers are going to become more mindful of this stuff as they get hit time and time again.
Okay, now I'm gonna hang on.
All right, go.
Right. And I was like, I'm gonna be quiet because we never, like, everybody gets to hang out with Rachel all the time. Nobody gets to hang out with Patrick all the time. Okay. So yes, whenever I am looking for example, there's a client that approached me to ask if we can look at different MDM solutions. Like, great. They had a suggestion. We're taking that one into account. And as I pull together everything else and educate myself on how these platforms will answer the technical and functional requirements of my client, right? I'm also assessing them for the risk that they may pose, because this client is in an industry vertical that is very close to my heart. So yes, absolutely. At least over here on this side of the fence, we are assessing partnerships and vendors for risk and keeping that in mind, right? How quickly do they respond to vulnerabilities that are disclosed about them? How quickly do they respond to these threats? Also, make sure in place there is some sort of third-party risk management team. If you're on the organizational side and you're not in a seller position like I am,
yeah,
on your side, have a third-party risk management program. At least the basic stuff, okay? Just the basic stuff. Something that your legal team can go back and see where they may be liable whenever they break your world, okay? If you need help with that, reach out. I will help you. I've built these.
That's great.
Run these processes and build them. So I'm there. I got you. Don't worry.
Yeah.
but
Well, I
it's
think
so
I do
important.
think that like the world of evidence, like when you're looking at exploitation evidence, like it's like a natural. These technologies are being
Yep,
targeted and exploited.
they
And
are. So this is my
I'm not trying to vendor shame. It's just like this is what the data is telling us. Like, uh, someone needs to go fix their technology, right?
right, and that's why
Um,
big picture, what Patrick does is such a huge cog in the wheel and machine of making cybersecurity more secure in cyber environments. Like, that's why, is because I know Meg's yelling at me 5 minutes. Look, there is
yeah.
because you have to have the Patricks of the world that say, "This is why your baby's ugly." So that then
It's always
you
a
can
balance.
so then you can go be a big girl and put your big girl panties on and go fix it. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what you got to do next. You go, that's how ugly my baby is. Oh no, let's make a bigger bow on the baby's head, right? Like
I'm
something.
I'm glad you're
You
pointing
gotta
this
fix
out because
it.
like yeah, one thing is like sometimes people they'll read my research and I can be very direct and very critical, right? And
Don't take
at
it
first,
personal. It's just, it's
well,
good.
no. At first, like you take it a little bit personal, right? Because you're like, oh man. And sometimes there are times where I maybe like maybe like came close to that line. I try and balance, but like it's the reality of like, oh, we're sharing data, and the only thing that this does is pointing this stuff out is like it makes people aware, and hopefully they do something about it and it gets better. Um, and just because I'm like publishing research or criticizing doesn't mean I think necessarily it's terrible or bad.
Right.
I think that's the other thing with researchers you have to like consider is like, yeah, we're trying to publish and provide visibility of reality. And
Right.
sometimes that is at complete contradiction of what a project is doing or what a product is supposed to be doing. It doesn't mean that thing is bad. It just means there's opportunity for improvement.
Right. Thank you. I like how you put it in the corporate vernacular there.
Yeah.
Good job. That's
Uh,
the sugarcoating reality thing that I think is necessary. By the way, that's a soft skill. You don't just walk up to somebody and go, "Dang, that baby ugly." You're like,
I mean, sometimes I do, and I got it's a balance.
you're not supposed to do
And
that.
I'm not. I'm drinking liquid death, not a beer. Just to
Oh,
clarify.
isn't that one of their selling points, by the way, is they make
And
fun
it
of
looks like a
themselves for
beer.
looking like a beer?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Patrick, thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with us and for all the work that you do and the research you do and sharing the Basta Black Basta research that you did recently. Y'all go check it out. It's a very excellent write up with with lots of pictures and diagrams, which I like.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's another part of it, and I know we're coming to an end, but like helping get things out visual, like everyone doesn't understand or can read through a blog post that's like uh 10 pages of text or a white paper.
Yeah,
And so that's the other thing is like kind of tying that element of like making it easy to understand and learn about things is to me like one of the best. And then on the university side, it's like, yeah, we have a bunch of free data. I just put a link in the chat. Like there is a bunch of stuff that you can go and research and use, whether it's for your company, academic, or for your enterprise, that you can explore for yourself. And I think I'm going to be doing some workshops on that coming up at like InfoSec Europe and maybe some other conferences. So
that's
Hey,
awesome.
dude, we have at our site we have a thing called cyber dives that the students put on and be part of. Love to have you, jump in and hang out with that
yeah,
and give some background. That would be awesome.
That
yeah,
would
I'd
be
be
awesome.
happy to do that anytime. Remotely. Yeah, I don't know if I can commit to travel, but
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
can hop
yeah,
on a
definitely,
Zoom, and
definitely,
Yeah,
I love helping people learn. So
that's
definitely.
awesome.
And that's what's so dang important because you hit the nail on the head with how much security we can increase by simply taking care of the basic elements of patching, knowing where our stuff is, and addressing it. Right? That is just so huge. And that comes from the research and the work, tireless work that you guys put in researching and finding out what is actually happening, right? That's massive. Thank you.
Thanks. It's fun. I enjoy it. I'm lucky.
I'm so glad you got to come hang out with us for a little while, show us around your office, give us some history into what makes Patrick tick, as well as what you're passionate about, right? Speaking of
It's been
passion.
fun. I gotta finish by dropping in on the half blade.
Yeah?
Oh,
All right,
like-
let's see it.
like
Let's
it.
see it. Go back. Your camera
sorry.
lost you.
The camera didn't track. Oh no.
No, it didn't. Oh
Here we
no.
are.
We tried. We tried. All right.
That's awesome.
I'm so glad we did this today. This has been a whole lot of fun. I've learned a lot. I got to write down lots of things for me to Google food later. So also I'm going to reach out to you, Patrick, if I have any more questions. And I'm going to enjoy reading the research that you put out. I hope everybody else does too. Y'all remember, this is a networking, make friends type of situation. We do them on a weekly basis, usually on Fridays, unless our guest really cannot just make that work at all. Then we'll move it around every once in a while. But Fridays is the day for the coffee table talks. The next one is going to be next Friday. Same bat time, same bat channel. The link I am sharing via LinkedIn right there. Go sign yourself up. Casey Marquette is going to be our guest next go around, the CEO of Cybertrust. Thank you. That's what it is. Thanks, Will. CEO for Cybertrust. Good dude.
Later.
You guys are going to enjoy it.
Hey, thank you so much, Patrick.
Yes, thank you, Patrick.
It's been fun.
Y'all have a great and safe. Here in Louisiana, it's Mardi Gras weekend. That means next Tuesday is Fat Tuesday. And if you don't know what that is, also Google it. But you can always ask me too. I'll send you some fun.
In Michigan, we call it Punchki Day.
It's what?
Punchkis. Polish donuts.
What are those? I need links. Okay.
Later.
I need links. All right. Happy Mardi Gras. Happy weekend. We'll see y'all next time. Bye, everybody. This is a part where we smile and wave.